Can you help? Can you help me? Can you help? Self-Helpless! Can you help? Can you help me? Can you help? Self-Helpless! Can you help? Can you help me? Can you help? Self-Helpless!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Self-Helpless. I'm Kelsey Cook.
I'm Delaney Fisher.
And I'm Taylor Tomlinson.
And today we have a very, very fascinating interview to share with you guys. We have on the great comedian Ahamed Weinberg. He has been on the podcast before for our live from San Francisco Sketchfest episode. He was great on that. And he posted on Instagram a couple months ago that he had tested positive for COVID-19. And he kind of briefly described his experience on Instagram. It's very interesting. I actually had been in contact with him a week before he started showing symptoms. So it was personally interesting to me to be like, oh, wow, I might have actually come into contact with it. But he came on and we got to just ask him all about his experience with it. And it was pretty amazing. What did you guys think?
Oh, some surprising information for sure. I was, yeah, very surprised with some of the processes and stuff.
Yeah. Ahamed, also, if you guys don't know, he's been on TV. He's done Late Night with Seth Meyers, and his stand-up is on YouTube, that clip from Late Night with Seth Meyers, and he's hysterical. So definitely go check out his stuff after this episode. And should we just get into this interview with him?
Let's do it.
Let's do
All right,
it.
here it is. All right. You know him because you've heard him before on the podcast. He was such a fantastic guest, and we can't wait to have him back on now.
Yay!
Ahamed Weinberg.
Yay!
Yay.
Clapping for herself.
Huge shout out up top to my sister. She's a big fan. So
Yeah. What's her name again?
Nori Weinberg. She
Right.
yeah, she cuts hair. She's hoping to get back to work soon, but we don't know.
Yeah. Well, hi, Nori.
you
Thank
so
you for being a
much.
listener. We love you.
We love you.
Yeah,
we all need
yes.
haircuts.
Yes. Look at our hair.
It's
Some of
rough
us more
over
than
here.
others.
there
where
someone
are you
behind
looking,
you that
Delaney?
you
Is
try
there
to
someone behind you?
speak with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ahamed, before we get into all the COVID-19 talk, do you have a quote you want to share with us? Maybe your favorite quote, your least favorite quote?
Well, I'm just reading this. My friend sent me a doctor's Facebook post, which is all information right now is just a Facebook post or some crackhead's article or a CNN thing that doesn't make sense. But
Those two might cancel each other out. You said doctor and then Facebook, and I was like, oh, no, I don't know about that now.
well, this guy, my friend turned me on to this. It's a friend of hers who they were sending him conspiracy theories about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And he just decided to write a long Facebook post about how conspiracy theories work. And he's a PhD and he's does research. So it's just incredible to read this whole thing. So this is just the first paragraph. He says, a few thoughts about conspiracy theories and their subscribers. This guy's named Stefan Richter. He's great. He has green hair. Yeah.
He has green hair?
He has green hair.
Okay.
And is posting his theories on Facebook.
Right, but he's a doctor.
That
He's a
sounds like
PhD.
Mark Zay.
Oh, okay.
Let's be real.
Yeah. Okay. Theories in general only spread if people are willing to hear them. If a theory about the world is completely at odds with your worldview, chances are you're going to reject it outright. If you want to fight misinformation, it's worthwhile asking what underlying assumptions that misinformation is promoting, either explicitly or implicitly, and what's comforting about the way it frames things. In the case of COVID-related conspiracy theories, I see most of them reinforcing three main points. Bad things happen for a reason. The situation isn't as bad as everybody says it is. And the authorities/medical establishment are not to be trusted. And then he basically just goes on about those three things and why those three things, why conspiracy theories spur from those three ideas, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah. So sorry, it's not like a cool quote from like Bob Dylan.
Well, you shared a quote. I mean, you've already been on the
Yeah, you get
podcast,
a
so
pass
you
this time.
did a quote. You're good. You're all good to go.
It's technically a quote.
Yeah, that's true. So you are our first guest who has tested positive for COVID-19 and experienced all the symptoms. So can you just walk us through everything that you've been through the last month or two?
Wow. Okay.
And also, how many podcasts have you done
Yeah.
as a COVID survivor? Because I can only imagine your inbox right now.
Well, maybe 5. It hasn't been as crazy as you think. I think I don't know why people are trying to do podcasts that are not about COVID. Cause I think they're like, we want to be the podcast that doesn't talk about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you guys are different. You guys address it head on. You're brave.
Every episode we're doing right now is about COVID. No, it's not. We're still talking about candles and bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah, you know.
White girl stuff.
White girl shit. By the way, some real white girl shit. I've been like swimming in the ocean the past 3 nights because there's like bioluminescent algae in the ocean right now.
Uh-huh.
And it's like illegal to go to the beach, but there's places you can go and just, it's like surreal. It's transcendent. It's like you're just out in the waves and all the water around you is like glowing bright blue as you're moving your arms because of this algae that's like reacting to movement. And it was a full moon last night too. It was like some life-changing shit.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need you to text me where you're going.
Yeah.
You criminal!
I will. Dude, there were cops
Help
like
me.
combing the beach. You have to be like
Oh
super
my
careful.
God.
Whoa.
But
Because I've
it's-
seen other people post about it and I was like, how the fuck did you guys
Yeah.
get that close to it?
if you go to the more conservative beach towns, people are just out. People are just on the beach. People are like chilling. So yeah, like Huntington and Hermosa, like those places, people are just like, fuck it.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Just getting tickets or?
I don't know. There's too many people to give tickets. Like I've seen the cops drive along the beach and everyone just kind of like leaves.
Yeah.
But two nights in a row now we've gone and just been totally fine. So I'd say break the law for that. It's worth
First
it.
hot tip, guys, break
That
the law
sounds
for that
great.
bioluminescent algae shit. That sounds great. Are you on mushrooms, Ahamed?
It's a full moon. It's
I had to ask because we really came in hot with the bioluminescent.
Yeah.
with
You use the word
full moon and-
transcendent.
I've been off drugs completely since I got my COVID results because I did mushrooms that day. I only did a little bit, but I was tripping too much and got scared and then got the call that I had COVID on later that day. Luckily I was not high anymore, but I was like, damn, if I would have gotten that information while I was tripping, I might have just gone completely insane.
Yeah.
So I'm like not doing drugs right now because I'm too scared of like getting bad information while I'm high. You know, it's like, it's too risky right now for me.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll just go in the ocean.
I know you did like that great Instagram post kind of outlining the timeline of everything, but could you quickly go through that just for people who haven't seen it?
Totally. Yeah. So let's see, March 8th was like the first day I was sick. So it was a while ago now, you know, like 7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
2 months exactly from today, right?
Yeah.
Isn't today the 8th?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was on the bus and the train the week before that because my car was in the shop. So that I think I just got it in public transportation somehow.
Okay.
And the day before I got sick, I went to a brunch and then I went to a birthday party and then I got dinner with friends and then I went to a wedding party.
Wow.
Can I also say that I saw you and I did good heroin
That's a
together.
show, right? For
That's
anybody.
right.
A show.
Right. Yeah.
Did that sweet ass heroin. We did the show Good Heroin in LA, and that was a week before you started showing symptoms, and you and I like had a conversation.
That's right.
You know, I used the mic right after you.
Right.
And so I had a really interesting experience reading your Instagram post because number one, I was, you know, like horrified for what you went through and was so happy to hear you were okay. But I also was like, oh, that means I probably with the whole, like, you can have it for 14 days before you show symptoms. If I saw you a week before you're showing symptoms, there's a pretty good chance that like I was exposed to it, but I never showed symptoms.
Yeah, I guess there is a good chance. I mean, the crazy thing is there were a bunch of people who were at those parties that I went to who subsequently got sick, had all the symptoms of COVID, got tested, and it came back negative. Like two or three people who were like, "Oh, you gave me COVID," and I was like, "Yeah, sorry." And then they got negative results. So I guess there's a world where I got it at one of those events. Like,
okay,
I don't know. The thing is, like, all I know is I woke up the next day. I thought I was hungover. I guess I was. And I went to the gym and like worked out, and then got home from the gym and I was like, oh, I'm actually exhausted, and I need to sleep. And then slept pretty much all day Sunday, and then woke up Monday and I was like, I have a fever, like this is something. But it was kind of a trippy experience because, sorry, I keep saying like drug words, but that's how I was taught to talk. Hippie parents. But I knew it was something else at that point, but this was before really the lockdown. This was before COVID was as big of a thing. It still just kind of felt like on the horizon maybe. Mm-hmm. And people were out still socializing. Everything was open that whole week. And so I immediately reached out to my doctor, told him my symptoms, which were just basic fever symptoms. And he was like, yeah, your cough isn't dry. Like this and that it seems like you don't have it. You probably don't have it. Just like keep an eye on your temperature. So then the fever got worse. I was coughing up a lot of disgusting shit. And I was just like having very low energy and waking up in sweat. And my temperature eventually reached 103, which is like bad. Yeah. So then I told my doctor that, and he was like, come in, we'll make sure it's not pneumonia. So then I got x-rayed. I got a call later that day. You have pneumonia, which I'm like, I don't even know what that is. It's like,
I've had it before.
That's like
it's
fluid
horrendous.
in your lungs, right? Oh.
Yeah. I had it in college, and the kind of cough you have is like, you feel like your throat's going to come out of your neck. It's horrible.
Yeah. And it's also like, once they found out I had pneumonia, they were like, well, that's what it is. It's not COVID. You have pneumonia. And then they gave me antibiotics. Meanwhile, I'm so sure that I have COVID, but the doctors are telling me I don't. Like that was my experience, was like every doctor I talked to was like, you don't have it.
Yeah.
And then I got antibiotics, and those antibiotics luckily like cleared up my pneumonia. And I was pretty much back to health like a week, like on the 16th or something.
Okay.
And at that point I went in for a checkup for my pneumonia, and my doctor listened to my lungs, and he took off his surgical mask, like almost in this way of being like, I'm so sure you don't have COVID. Like, I'm going to take off my mask.
What the
wow.
fuck?
It was,
I mean, why even do that? Why even risk that?
I don't know. Like the whole experience was just so weird,
Did they have a COVID case at that hospital or doctor yet? Like, did they maybe not want to say, yeah, you have it, because then that makes their hospital or office look a certain way? Do you remember?
I don't know. I mean, it was like a UCLA medical center. They definitely didn't have testing at that point, right? So if they don't have testing, they're probably not going to tell you have it, because there's no way to back it up. But yeah, I've heard a lot of testimonials from doctors back in the initial times, like in New Orleans after Mardi Gras, and people were coming in, they had all the symptoms and they couldn't test them, and they just sent them back out into the world, and that's kind of like what happened to me. But I continued to quarantine because I was just sure that I had it, like I just had to trust my gut. as lonely and awful as it was, because I also just felt betrayed that I had it a week before everyone. Like I was locked down so early and I like missed out on a whole week of normal life, that everyone.
Which now, I mean, like a week of normal life, that's like a lifetime with what everybody's going through right now. That makes sense.
I can't even imagine. Can you imagine what it felt like before this? Like just going out?
So weird. I mean, it's like forever changed, huh?
If you could go in a time machine and just be a part of, like, go to a restaurant, like the whole time, I would just be so scared.
I know.
Gosh.
It's like depressing to watch any movie or TV show right now, because in every movie or TV show, they're going places and touching people. And you're like, wow, okay. Didn't realize that everything was going to be so triggering.
Yeah.
In such a short amount of time.
I know. It would be cool to go back and like censor old movies and TV shows for like COVID. Like
just put masks over everyone.
Or just like pixelate whenever anyone shakes hands.
Boy Meets World.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So
that's hilarious.
Taylor, do you think this has been good for your special though?
I mean, every radio DJ I talk to seems to think so. That's what's been so weird, is that everybody's like been trying to be really positive, especially in the beginning. Like my whole team was like, I mean, this is actually great for you. This is great timing. Like, you know how like agents are, where they're just like, you couldn't have locked down the country at a better time for your special.
Oh my God.
It's going to be great for you. And I was like, I kind of don't think that's true. I feel like Netflix didn't really need the bump in viewership, but who knows? I do think there are definitely people who started watching it that maybe wouldn't have, because they just have more time. Because like I've done that with things,
right?
Where I watched more than I would have, or given something a shot that I wouldn't have if I had less time. So I don't know. Did you also got the antibody test, right?
Yeah. So what was that?
I did eventually. Yeah. Like a couple.
After you.
Can you talk about actually testing positive for COVID and all of that?
Yeah. So I'm trying to go back and think about. So
you left off that your doctor was listening to your lungs without a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably dead. I don't know. But like I continued to quarantine until I was like driving around. I guess I was driving, but I was mostly quarantined. And I heard on the radio that there was like free COVID testing through the city. So I went to the testing site the next day, and it was like in Elysian Park, in this huge parking lot. It was like Jurassic Park style, just like people in hazmat suits, like guiding your car in, and you check in at a desk that's like 10 feet away, and you're like yelling your name at them. And like they hand you a mask upon entry. Like it was very, very clinical and like safe for everyone who, was working there. But then they, you roll your car through the parking lot and you get to the tent, and they asked me to pull my mask down so my nose was exposed and tilt my head back, which, now we all know like that nasal swab is like a thing we know about, but like I had never heard of it. So they put the swab into my nose, like it goes so deep that you just can't, it's so violating, especially without realizing that it's going to happen. Like that she pulled the swab out, and I was just like, I just like drove away and like started crying almost immediately. Just from that thing going that far in. You don't think your nose
gonna hit your brain if it goes too far, right? Like fuck.
It goes into your throat, like through the nose.
Picturing it this way.
I have to.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't even go up or down. It's like there's somehow it goes straight back.
So before all of this hit, maybe 6 months ago, when I was swallowing, I felt like I had like a lump in my throat or something. And I went to the doctor and I was like, I don't know if this is like some sort of like, on a vocal cord. I don't know. Maybe I'm like imagining it. And so he's like, I'll send you to a ear, nose, throat specialist and see if she sees anything. And she made me it's like a spray, like a sort of a numbing spray, but it's not fully numbing. It's just like makes it a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
And then when you're trying to swallow, like you can't, it's like your whole tongue is dead. And so it just is like laying in your mouth. It's very weird. And then she put a tube through my nostril and it went down. It was a camera, like a camera on a fucking noodle, but like a pretty thick noodle through my nostril into my throat. And you can like feel that it's there. And she's like, if you feel like you're going to swallow, tell me immediately. Cause like you can like damage your throat.
Oh my God.
In it.
Wow.
And so I had to just try and like fucking zen, like just meditate, like just keep breathing. But it hurt so much. Like what you're talking about, that direction, something going that deep, it fucking hurts so much.
Yeah, because your entire body is like telling you that shouldn't be there.
Yeah. And there wasn't anything, by the way. I just felt like I had some sort of lump and she's like, there's literally nothing there. But like that experience is so horrible. I will never forget that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also, there's something about getting hurt, like your nose, like that's like a special pain. It's like, it happens when you're a kid, like you like break your nose or something and you like forget how much that hurts. But then as an adult, you like, your nose gets hurt and you're like, fuck, that's like real. That's like so much more painful for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's close to your brain.
How long?
I don't know.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Taylor.
So when you, go ahead. I was just going to say, when you finally did get the test, were you like feeling totally better by that point?
Yeah, I was still quarantined, but I was hiking by myself. I was like kind of going to the grocery store sometimes, but yeah, my health was totally fine. I was like, that's why I started doing like mushrooms, because I was like, I feel great. I'm going to like start experimenting with microdosing and like, I'm going to use this time and this introspection to like get to like a really good place in my life and like learn how to be alone and how to like love myself. And like, I like had like a very positive mentality about like, well, I might as well use this time to like grow as a human being. And then that day that it was supposed to be a microdose, but I got really high and kind of freaked out because I realized that I couldn't leave my apartment and that the world is ending.
Right. Yeah.
And then late at night, like 2 a.m., I get like 5 missed calls from a random number. And I finally call it back. And it's just someone who goes, hi, is this Ahamed Weinberg? I'm like, yeah. Hi. Your test came back positive for COVID-19. I hope you are safe. I hope you're isolating. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? And he's like, I don't know what you do. I am just the man who calls you to say this. Like, it's just,
whoa.
That's like somebody's job is to just call everyone and tell them that they have it. And I can't imagine how many people are just like freaked out at this person. And like, he's not a doctor. He's just probably a med student who like.
How fast did that result come in?
And
was it like the next day or?
No, it was about 3 days after, which was sooner than I thought. I heard it took a week, so I was kind of ready for that. So
they come. Do they come faster now? I thought that I had heard that you can like get a result within like a few hours now.
I think there are more advanced. I don't think the reason it takes so long is because of it takes a long time to get the result. I think they were just so backed up.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't really know,
Did the symptoms feel like the worst freaking cold, flu, sickness you've ever had, or did it feel like you've had it worse?
I've been more sick in my life for sure, but it was just like an awful fever. Like when you're a kid and you're so sick that it's like, man, I wish I was actually in school right now. You know, like it was that level of like,
wow,
this
and
is awful.
How many days did you have the fever?
It was basically like a week.
Yikes.
A week?
Yeah. Yeah. But the antibodies worked, which like, that would mean it's bacterial pneumonia.
You mean the antibiotics?
Sorry. Yeah. Antibiotics.
Okay.
The antibiotics worked, which means it's bacterial pneumonia. And at that point, like maybe they didn't know that COVID could cause bacterial pneumonia. They just kind of assumed that I didn't have COVID because it was bacterial pneumonia. So
well, they talk so much about a dry cough, but you had a wet cough. Which is pneumonia.
Yeah. Like it seems like there's just so many different types of COVID. It's just because it's affecting everyone so differently, you know?
Yeah.
Which is, and so many people are asymptomatic, and like women are not showing symptoms more than men, or women are not getting as sick as men, which I don't know. It's probably just because men are like way more like disgusting. Like,
just aren't washing their hands as much.
Yeah, like we're just not as concerned with like hygiene.
Right.
I would say. So that's probably got a lot to do with that. We're like getting way more sick than women are generally.
I thought you were just going to say like karma from like years of history or something like that. That like, you know, it was just, we were due for a little victory or something. But you're like, no, we just don't wash our hands after we wipe. So do you think, now this is me asking just like for selfish reasons, just because I'm curious. So if I saw you on like March 1st, you're saying that you think you might have gotten it after that at the parties you went to?
I could have. I mean, theoretically, it's like takes like a week to like notice your symptoms, but I kind of think like if I had it at those parties, I would have gotten a lot of people sick, and I didn't. So that part like kind of doesn't make sense. Right.
So that's so interesting to me because I feel like I must have been exposed to it by you, but it's almost a comfort. It was a comfort when you posted that because I was like, well, I haven't had any symptoms. So that means, because so far up until you'd posted that, it had been this like invisible boogeyman of like, you can't see it, I'm trying to dodge it. And then to hear that I had been around somebody who did test positive for it, I was kind of like, all right, well, like I was around it at some point and maybe it's just one particular strain, but that made me feel a little bit better that I was around it and didn't end up having symptoms.
Yeah. I mean, I think most people are probably just getting it and are asymptomatic, and just like, for some reason I was on the bus and probably someone's cough just like wafted into my face and I just got like a huge dose of it, you know?
Or droplets, your touch. I mean, buses are just disgusting. You're touching something that somebody coughed on. Who knows?
So
yeah. But the crazy part is like after I got the positive thing, like my whole like mental like I'm gonna become a better person thing just ended. You know, I was like, okay, I have COVID. This is fucked. So nothing makes any sense in the world. Like I am just going to sleep all day and play video games and do anything to just like make myself feel good. And I also had this awful guilt of like, wow, how many people did I get sick? I had this shame about being like, ugh, I'm carrying this disgusting thing that's killing everyone. Everything I touch is infected. Like I had I just felt like bad and gross. And then before I posted about it, I called people that I had been in close contact with. And that was really hard, you know, to be like, hey, I was at your wedding. I was at your birthday party. I was in your apartment. Like, I don't know the reality of things, but like, you just have to know that I just tested positive, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
And those calls were like really scary. And, I don't know, like,
what were
how were they received? Were people
were very kind and weren't upset at me at all, you know, which was great because I thought I kind of in my mind, like in my neuroses was like, people are going to be pissed off at me for like, but obviously they're mature and knew that I didn't know I had it. And, you know,
there's such, I mean, that shame aspect is so interesting. And obviously, you know, you're the first person we've had on to talk about this, but that's an unexpected part of it to me. But I feel like I've heard that from other stories that people who have it feel this shame, but it's like, it wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything out of malice. It's not like you knowingly had it and then were like reckless and like, you know, making out with people. It just, it was out of your hands. But I mean, I get what you're saying. It's just, it's an interesting part of that I wouldn't have expected.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it's like to like call people that you've slept with and tell them that you have like something awful. Like I imagine it was something like that, where you like to go back into people's lives and like alter their reality. And that's like very scary to do.
So is there enough information about this virus to know that like now that you've had it, are you just able to pass it on to people? Is it out of your system at some point? Like what the fuck happens now that you're over the sickness? Do we even know?
Well, yeah, we don't really know. Like I had, waited a long time, like after I got the positive result to quarantine, probably another 2 weeks at least before I got an antibody test because they had just come around. And I knew that the antibodies testing was not FDA approved and probably was just some millionaire bought a bunch of tests from China and is going to make a ton of money, like that's probably most likely what it was. But I wanted to get an antibody test because I just wanted a piece of paper that says like, you are not contagious anymore. You're not sick anymore. And I drove down to Huntington Beach to this mall where they were doing the testing in the parking lot. And we got there at 9 a.m., which is when the testing site opened. And at that point, the car line was so long that it took 5 hours to get to the front of the line where they test you. Oh my gosh. 5 hours of just sitting in. I was with my friend who also tested positive, so we were able to like hang out, But it was like waiting to get into Burning Man or something. Like it was like, but you're not going anywhere fun. You're just
nowhere fun, yeah.
You're heading towards this potentially awful information, And the test came back. There were 2 types of antibodies, like IgM and IgG. And apologies if I mix these up, if someone who's listening knows more than I do, but like, I think IgM is the active antibody that is fighting against future infections. That's like the one you want. That's like the really good one. And then IgG is an antibody that is fighting against current infection. So that would indicate that you still have an active virus inside of you. And I tested positive for both. And like, which theoretically meant like, 3 or 4 weeks after all symptoms ended, that I was still carrying it, which blew my mind. I was like, that goes against everything I'm being told. And the CDC's website saying 72 hours after your symptoms subside that you can start, social distance, but like hanging out with people. And like, I was just like, wow, all this information is just, it doesn't pertain to my experience at all. And that alone is like go into crazy paranoia and just not trusting the systems and the government and just start feeling crazy. But the lady at the testing site was like, if you wait a week, then you should be good. Because my IgG was so low that they were like, it seems like you're done fighting it probably in a week or so. And then I had a doctor from Philly, my friend, reach out and say that test was bullshit and that does not accurately say if you're actively carrying the virus, and that by all definitions I'm probably not contagious. But then I had to kind of like weigh that against what they told me at the testing site. And then I went back and got another antibody test like a week later, and I still had that other antibody that meant that I was still carrying it. And I was like, okay, at this point, I just don't think these things are accurate at all, Wow. So now they have new antibody testing where they take blood and they send it to a lab, and that's supposed to be more accurate. But, from my personal, like, I'm going to get tested again, but, I've qualified now to donate plasma, and that's kind of like enough for me to be like, I'm probably not carrying this actively anymore. If the Red Cross is telling me we want to put your blood into people.
Yeah.
Like they're screening me and they're listening to all my data and they're like, yeah, you're probably good to, donate blood. So
Holy balls.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So crazy. It's just, because that I was also hearing from people I know in the medical field that those tests were so faulty. There was so many false negatives and so many false positives that it kind of just like, yeah, you can get one, but who knows? It's just so much uncertainty that you just have to really take it day by day with how you feel, I guess. And I don't know what the fuck we're all supposed to do.
I mean, my friend who I went with, his antibody test came back negative, and he was like, "Hey, I tested positive for COVID, so this doesn't make sense." And they were like, maybe, your body just didn't develop the antibodies. And he was like, that doesn't make sense either. And they retested him. And came back positive. So I literally witnessed the false negative
that
happen.
freaks me out. That freaks me out because it's like, this testing just bullshit to like, maybe they think it's going to work, or is it just to make everybody else feel better that like they're doing something, but really it's because the people I spoke to inside of like the medical field were not super confident in any of the testing at all. And just to basically say, do your best with taking care of yourself and staying inside. And that's really all you can do because these things are not reliable yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the conspiracy theories like kind of piss me off, because I do think like what we did was the right thing ultimately. Like, even if this kind of virus, like if the data comes back and it was way less deadly than we thought it was, at least we precautionarily we were getting ready for something that was much worse. And I'm sure we prevented a lot of death by shutting down everything, So yeah, it's just like, I do think that we did the right thing and probably should continue to lock everything down until we have like substantial data. Because just from my experience, this virus is like, it just is unpredictable. People don't know how to test for it. We don't know how to treat it. We don't know what symptoms are it. Like it's going to be a long time before we understand it. So it's scary to think that we could reopen cities now and just probably have a resurgence, in the next few months or something. But also you can't tell humans to stay inside in America, like where people are just not that disciplined here, or not that, I don't know. Disciplined is a word that kind of, I bet a lot of people would say we're not manipulative. We're not
obedient.
Yeah. Subservient. Like they could do
thesaurus over here.
Like what they could do in China, they could never do here. They could never just like legally tell you to stay inside or.
So how have you been like managing your anxiety and stuff with all this shit now? Like what have you been doing for like your own self-care? I know you said it kind of fell off the wagon once you tested positive, but are you in a different place now?
Yeah. I am. I was like drinking too much for like a little while, but now I'm in a much better place because I've been able to socialize in some aspects, with other people who tested positive, and go on social distance activities like going to the beach and going on hikes and stuff like that. And that's made like all the difference, just to be able to like have human interaction, because I live alone in my studio apartment. Like that was just an awful part of it, was like, I just am stuck here by myself,
Yeah.
So being around people, I've been, meditating a lot more now because I couldn't meditate for a long time. There was too much anxiety in my head when I tried to like just quiet my mind. It was way too hard. I just couldn't. It was just, my mind would just shoot off in a billion directions at once. But I've been able to calm down and can like get into like calmer states. And yeah.
Wow.
Exercise is big.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man. Yeah. Thank you for coming on and just being open with us about what's happened to you.
I'm such a bummer. Like I want to be a comedian again. It's like, I'm like a doctor and a lawyer, and like I'm not built for this.
Yeah.
You're great.
No, I think you are making people feel better. I mean, I feel better anytime I talk to anybody I know who's had it and been through it, because it makes me a lot less freaked out. Like Kelsey saying, it's probably comforting for some people to hear that they were in close contact with someone who had it. Again, I was sick so much in the last, 7 months that I'm like, maybe one of those was it. Who knows? Like,
yeah.
Irene 2 featured for me in January in San Jose, or no, in February, like late. It was one of the two. And like, we've talked about it, and she's like, I for sure had it. Like, we were both sick that weekend, but she was like really sick, like, and then just stayed in bed for a week after that weekend. So, I think you're right. Probably a lot more people have had it than we know about.
Wasn't some of the information that came out recently that at some point 80% of the population will have it, and it'll just affect everybody differently. But then, life will go on. It'll be okay. Like, it'll just be kind of something that we, build up immunity against or whatever. And by then, there'll be a vaccine that's accurate and testing that's accurate. I mean, hopefully that's what happens, the way that everything else has happened before this with other viruses and stuff.
Yeah, I wonder when stand-up is going to come back, because it's like, it's the ultimate, like, crowds and then everyone's laughing. I mean, that's like the most contagious environment possible.
Good
basically.
point. I didn't even think about the laughing part of that you were like, if you got droplets,
you gotta wear masks. Wait, did you guys say Comedy Club opened last weekend or something? Does anybody know how that show went?
Comedy clubs are opening now.
Whoa, really?
I know somebody doing a weekend at the Addison Improv next weekend. I thought he was doing last weekend, but he's doing it this weekend. So I'm curious to find out how that goes for him. I mean, he also lives like within driving distance, I think. So that's part of it. Cause I mean, we've all been going, oh my God, I hope we get to perform soon. I hope we get to perform soon. And after you think about it, you go, oh, we'd have to get on a plane.
Right.
For a lot of these, sometimes multiple. I don't know that I want to do that anytime soon.
And stay in a hotel.
Oh my God. Yeah. The hotel. Yeah. I can't. Again, I get different information like every day from my people, where it's just like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to open up clubs this month. And then it's like, okay, maybe it's next month. And we're sure that by moving these dates to such and such that we'll definitely be able to do it. I mean, I had dates that I moved from March to June that are now getting moved to November. And at this point, I don't even trust that. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can perform at like drive-in movie theaters.
Go. That's a great idea. Actually.
There you go. I think that would.
It'd be weird to just talk to cars.
Actually, awesome.
People are doing Zoom shows. People are probably going to do Zoom tours. Like, we are too desperate a population, stand-up comedians, to not figure it out.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know, but like making videos has been such a saving grace for me, and I know you guys have been making videos. Like, it feels so good to like put something out and get feedback.
Yes.
I miss it.
Yeah, it boils it down to that like pure reason of why we do what we do, where it's like anytime somebody's like, oh my God, this made me laugh so hard, you're just like, oh, good. Like, I just want to make people laugh. Like, I just want it to be a more enjoyable life for them for 3 seconds, whatever,
Yeah.
But Ahamed, you're amazing.
So much.
Thank you for coming on.
I feel so much better, honestly, like just hearing about this stuff. For me, it really demystifies the whole process, and at least like it mentally prepares me for what I might have to expect if this happens to me. So for me, it's I'm kind of in the same boat as Kelsey mentioned. Like, it is comforting to like hear so many personal experiences about people who get it versus like just the unknown completely. So yeah, thanks for sharing all that with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad glad it helps. That feels really good to hear.
Yeah. All right. Well, can you plug where people can find you?
Yeah, you just type in my name. It's my name is always my handle because it's always available. So,
Yeah.
Ahamed is Ahamed, and then Weinberg is Weinberg. So
Perfect. Go follow him.
Yeah.
He's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Look up his stand-up. He's the best.
Oh, you guys are great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ahamed. You're the best.
All right.
All right.
Man, I'm so glad we had him on.
Oh my gosh.
my
It's just, it
gosh.
makes me feel better. I can't be one of those people who kind of just like doesn't look at the news for a while. Cause I know some people are doing that and it's been really helpful for them. And I wish I was the type of person who could kind of go, I'm just not going to look at anything for like a few days and give my mind a break. I just have to like know a little bit of what's going on every day.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I felt that way listening to Ahamed talk about his experience where I just like, even the stuff that was scary to me, I was like, I just feel better knowing.
Yes. 100%.
You know?
Yeah.
Me too. I haven't talked to anybody yet about a personal experience having it. So this was the first time I've talked to somebody who actually had it and like
Same.
described what it was like.
I've
Same.
talked to a few people. About it. My friend Erica Spiro, who's very funny, her roommate, they have a great podcast called Shooters Gotta Shoot. And Molly, her co-host and roommate, had it. And Erica didn't get it and was fine, or at least didn't show symptoms. But, you know, it's, again, just to Ahamed's point, like how unpredictable it is and how you just don't know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So crazy.
So crazy. Well, we have an iTunes review.
Gear shift.
Everything is fine.
Hey, it's okay, guys. We're back in La La Land. We ready? This one is from Shannon in Lou. And Shannon says, empowering, hilarious, and uplifting. On one hand, I'm bummed that I didn't start listening to Self-Helpless until just a few months ago. But on the other hand, I have loved being able to binge this amazing podcast during quarantine. The girls are so funny and bring humor to tough topics. Along with the humor, I always come away with something to think about to inspire me throughout the day. I truly have no complaints about this podcast and have appreciated the extra episodes the girls have been putting out the last few months. Can't wait to keep listening. Oh, that was so nice. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you, Shannon.
If you want to
Really
pop
nice
on,
words.
pop on the old iTunes, just leave a little 5-star rating and review for us. Super helpful.
Yeah.
so
And you get
much.
a chance to have your review read on the show, which is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have some segments to wrap this baby up?
I have a very quick recommendation that's a little bit in conjunction with my new sun hat adventure that we talked about last episode. I also wanted to recommend a sunscreen. Again, not sponsored at all. I just know that I have extremely sensitive skin. Things break me out so easily, especially sunscreen. I feel like sunscreen is one of those just bitch ass products that it can feel really greasy or thick or clog your pores. And I've really been loving the Elta MD brand of sunscreen, ELTA MD. They sell them in a lot of dermatologist offices, and I feel like that's always a pretty good indicator of like, okay, like this probably wouldn't be in here if it was terrible for your skin. You can get it either through, well, not right now with quarantine, but like you can get it on Amazon. And I use the Elta MD clear one, which is specifically for acne prone skin, and they have a tinted one. It's just really great, and it's
Nice.
Yeah, I really like it.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Taylor, you got any stuff?
Yeah, I got a couple self-care things. I gave myself a pedicure. It doesn't look great up close, but from far away does the job.
6 feet
Which is
away,
all you
it
need.
looks
6
good,
feet
yeah.
away, it's fine.
I am going to learn how to paint my nails during this time. I just don't have a choice. Did you do those? I was going to ask you.
Mhm.
Yours look great, Kelsey.
Thank you.
Those look so good.
I got
okay.
Thanks.
I'm good.
Delaney, don't even try.
Get out of here.
Neither of us should be. But yeah, my toes are, I won't show the camera because it'll look like a Quentin Tarantino self-tape. But my toes look cute, and it made me feel so much better. And also, one of the photographers at the Laugh Factor, her name is Liz, posted that she was selling prints on Instagram. This is like a lot of a lot of people have been obviously pivoting a little bit and doing different stuff and offering different services. And especially in, our world of comedy, it's not just comedians. It's like people who work at clubs, people who make most of their money taking pictures of comedy shows. Like, you kind of just forget how many different people in our own world is affecting. So I was like, now I'm trying to be more aware of like, if there are people that I like, whose work I like, or even just like small business owners or whoever that I see online, I'm trying to like treat myself by buying things from them, because it's kind of like a win-win.
That's nice.
That's awesome.
So I bought a print from her. She did this photo series on her Instagram where she drove around late at night and took pictures of like theater marquees that all have these encouraging messages about being closed. That. Yeah. So she had a few that she posted she was selling prints of. And I was like, hey, are you doing this for like anything you've taken pictures of, or just these few? And so I got a picture of the United Artists Theater with the marquee that says, we'll be right back after these messages.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. And she had a few different ones. Her name's Liz VIG on Instagram, if you want to check out her stuff. So that made me happy.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, man. Support small business if you can, people. I've been buying a lot of stuff on Etsy lately. A lot of Etsy artists. Oh, I love me some Etsy. I guess the only thing I want to plug is I finally launched my new blog. So that's available now at DelaneyFisher.com. And I'm just really going to share tips every single time. Like every blog post will have some kind of like takeaway tips. And the 3 that are bingeable right now are, how to kick it off with my 3 favorite dairy-free ice cream flavors. So that's up right now, because I swear I get that question so much from people about like, what kind of ice cream do I eat now that I'm, vegan? So that's up there. And then just, tips for reducing anxiety right now, and tips for working from home. And so that's basically what the blog is as of right now, just like the tips that I use in my business and in my life, and perfectionism tips and just all that kind of stuff. So if you're curious about that, you can go to DelaneyFisher.com, and you can also sign up for basically an email list, but it's just to be notified when the new blog post is available. So if you want to be one of the first people to know when it's up, you can sign up for that, and I will shoot you a message.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for listening, you guys. We hope that you're doing okay and staying safe. Stay insane.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, deep breath.
Next time.
Deep breath.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for listening to Self-Helpless. We love you guys so much. There are a few different ways you can support our show. You can leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. It really helps us move up the charts. You can also tell a friend about the show, post it on social media, and you can join our Patreon. It's where you can get bonus episodes from us and lots of really fun content and ways to interact with the show. That's at patreon.com/selfhelpless. And if you go to selfhelplesspodcast.com, that's where you can get links to all of our individual stuff. Delaney, where can people find you?
You can find me at DelaneyFisher.com. You can find the online courses there, one-on-one creative consulting, watch my comedy special, and find Dicks by Delaney there.
Perfect. Tay, where can people find you?
You can find me on ttomcomedy.com for tour dates and links to everything else social media-wise. I am at Taylor Tomlinson on Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect. You guys can find me at kelseycook.com for all my tour dates. My Instagram is at kelseycookcomedy. Twitter's at kelseycook. Please be sure to watch my foosball web series on YouTube called Wrists of Fury. I've had Delaney and Taylor on together. It was such a fun episode. And you can download and buy my album Savor It on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you find comedy albums. We also want to give a shout out to our amazing producer, Lauren Mahoney, and our amazing editor, Emma Erdbrink. We love you guys, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.